It was an ordinary morning on a quiet country road, with the soft hum of Officer Daniel Cruz's patrol car breaking the silence. The sun had just begun to rise, casting a warm golden glow over the fields lining the highway. Birds chirped lazily in the trees, and the occasional car passed by in the distance. Daniel was used to these calm drives' routine checks, no big calls expected. But that morning would soon change everything. As Daniel drove around a gentle bend, his eyes caught sight of a figure standing in the middle of the road ahead. At first, he thought it was just another animal, a deer or maybe a stray dog. But as he got closer, he realized it was a German Shepherd. The dog stood perfectly still, right in his lane, blocking his path. The dog's deep brown eyes locked on Daniel's with an intensity that made him slow the cruiser to a crawl. Daniel stepped lightly on the brake and brought the patrol car to a stop, his hands tightening on the steering wheel. The German Shepherd didn't move. Instead, it let out a sharp bark, the sound echoing across the empty road. The dog's posture was alert, but not aggressive. It was as if the dog was trying to tell him something important. Curiosity and concern mingled in Daniel's mind. He reached over and switched off the engine, the sudden quietness around him making the dog's bark feel even louder. He cracked open his door and stepped out onto the asphalt, his boots clicking softly against the road. The dog took a few steps back, then looked over its shoulder toward the woods lining the roadside. Then, with a sudden burst of purpose, the dog turned and trotted toward the tree line. It paused and glanced back at Daniel, as if beckoning him to follow. Daniel hesitated for a moment, scanning the area for any signs of what might be wrong. The road was deserted, the only movement the gentle sway of branches in the morning breeze. Yet the dog's urgency was undeniable. Something deep inside Daniel told him to trust this animal. It wasn't behaving like a stray looking for food or shelter. This dog had a mission, and it was trying to enlist help. He grabbed his radio and called dispatch, letting them know he was stepping away from his vehicle to investigate something unusual. Officer Cruz, 10 to 97, possible situation on Route 19, he said calmly. The dog led him up a small dirt path, barely visible through the undergrowth. Thorns scraped Daniel's arms and branches snagged his jacket, but he pushed forward without complaint. The dog moved with surprising grace and confidence, clearly familiar with this route. As they ventured deeper into the woods, the sunlight grew dimmer, filtered through the thick canopy above. After several minutes, the dog suddenly stopped and barked loudly, its voice sharp and commanding. Daniel paused and looked around. Faint noises reached his ears, soft, broken sounds of distress mixed with the rustle of leaves. Then, just beyond a cluster of trees, he spotted something unusual. There, half hidden by branches and shadows, lay the wreckage of an SUV. Its front end was crumpled, smashed against a large oak tree. Smoke rose slowly from the engine compartment, curling upward in thin wisps. The windshield was shattered, tiny shards sparkling like glass diamonds in the muted light. Daniel's heart pounded as he scrambled down the slope toward the vehicle. Inside, he could just make out the figure of a woman, slumped over the steering wheel. She was motionless, her breathing faint but steady. The dog pressed close to the driver's door, whining softly but refusing to leave her side. Daniel noticed the dog's collar tagged, Sadie, service dog. Something clicked in his mind. This was no ordinary pet. Sadie was a trained companion, loyal and brave. Without hesitation, Daniel pulled out his radio again. Dispatch, Officer Cruz found a crashed vehicle off Route 19, possible injured occupant, requesting medical assistance immediately. As he waited for backup, Daniel crouched beside the SUV, gently trying to rouse the woman. The dog stayed firm, nuzzling her owner's hand and letting out soft whimpers. The scene felt surreal, a desperate rescue unfolding in the quiet woods, sparked by one determined dog standing in the road and stopping a police cruiser. Daniel knew this morning was only just beginning, and that the story behind this crash was far from over. After radioing dispatch with the urgent news, Officer Daniel Cruz felt the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. He couldn't just stand by and wait for help to arrive. There was too much at stake. He looked at Sadie, the German shepherd whose dark eyes held a fierce determination. The dog had led him here for a reason, and Daniel knew they weren't done yet. The woman inside the wrecked SUV remained motionless, her breathing shallow and uneven. The air was thick with the scent of burning oil and damp earth. Daniel scanned the area quickly. No other vehicles, no immediate dangers, just the quiet forest and the faint sounds of wildlife. But there was something else too, a faint rustling coming from deeper within the woods. "Sadie," Daniel whispered softly, reaching to scratch behind the dog's ears. Despite the blood staining her leg and matted fur, Sadie gave a reassuring wag of her tail. Then, unexpectedly, she pulled gently at Daniel's jacket with her teeth, tugging him toward the tree line. It was as if she wanted to show him something else, something beyond the crash site. Curious and cautious, Daniel rose slowly and followed her lead. He pushed through thick bushes and tangled vines, feeling the scratch of branches on his skin. The forest around them seemed almost alive, whispering secrets carried on the cool breeze. The dog's pace was steady but urgent, every few steps pausing to glance back and ensure Daniel was still following. After about 10 minutes, the woods opened up into a small clearing. Sunlight streamed through the gaps in the canopy, illuminating a rough makeshift camp. There were scattered belongings, an overturned backpack, a torn jacket, and a half-empty water bottle. Daniel's eyes narrowed as he took it all in. The scene was out of place here, far from any hiking trail or road. Then, something caught his eye near a cluster of rocks. A faint trail of footprints led further into the woods, barely visible but unmistakably fresh. The prints were too small to be from an adult, and Daniel's heart quickened. He called out softly, "Hello? Is anyone here?" His voice seemed swallowed by the thick trees, but there was no immediate response. Only the distant call of a bird. The dog suddenly stiffened, ears pricked forward. She began to growl low in her throat, her body tense. Daniel readied himself, hand on the holster of his sidearm, though he hoped it wouldn't be necessary. Then, from behind a fallen log, a young boy appeared no older than 8, dirty and shivering, his eyes wide with fear and confusion. Daniel lowered his weapon slowly, offering a calm smile. "Hey there, buddy. It's okay. I'm Officer Cruz. We're here to help." The boy hesitated, then took a cautious step forward. "My sister... she's hurt," he whispered. "We were driving when..." Then the car went off the road. Daniel's gaze sharpened. This was more than a simple accident. He knelt down to the boy's level. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Mike," the boy replied. "We were camping with my mom, but something happened. My sister couldn't wake up." Daniel's mind raced. Was the woman in the SUV Mike's sister? The puzzle pieces began to fall into place, but questions still swirled. Sadie moved closer to Mike, nuzzling his hand. The boy relaxed slightly, clutching the dog's fur. "She told me to follow the dog if anything went wrong," Mike said, quietly. Daniel's respect for the dog grew deeper. She had not only found help, but had also led Mike safely through the woods. With Mike in tow and Sadie guiding the way, Daniel made his way back toward the wrecked SUV. He radioed dispatch again, this time requesting search and rescue teams to assist. The boy's presence made everything more urgent. As they moved through the thick forest, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out, arriving. Back at the crash site, The faint sound of sirens echoed through the trees. Paramedics and backup officers emerged, their faces tense but ready. Daniel briefed them quickly, explaining the discovery of Mike and the condition of the woman inside. As the team sprang into action, Daniel glanced once more at Sadie, who stood proudly, her tail wagging softly. This dog had done something extraordinary. She had stopped a police car on a quiet road, led an officer deep into the woods, and brought hope to a family in crisis. Daniel felt a surge of gratitude for the animal's courage and instinct. The rescue was far from over, but the odds had suddenly shifted. He watched as paramedics worked swiftly to stabilize the woman, preparing her for transport to the hospital. Mike stayed close to Sadie, finding comfort in the dog's warmth and steady presence. Daniel knew that this day would be remembered not just for the crash, but for the incredible loyalty and bravery of a German Shepherd who refused to give up. The air was thick with a sharp scent of burnt oil and crushed metal as Officer Daniel Cruz carefully approached the wrecked SUV. The vehicle lay wedged against an ancient oak tree, its front end crushed like a tin can. Smoke curled lazily from the engine bay, twisting in the cool morning air. Shattered glass glittered on the ground, and the once bright blue paint was scratched and dulled by the brutal impact. Inside the driver's seat, Daniel spotted the slumped figure of a woman. Her head rested heavily against the shattered windshield, and her breathing was faint, shallow, and uneven. Her pale face was streaked with dirt and dried blood. Daniel's heart tightened. This was no simple accident. The woman was in desperate need of help. Sadie, the German Shepherd, remained steadfastly by the driver's side, her body pressed protectively against the door. Despite her own injuries, a deep scratch bleeding along her right leg, she refused to move, whining softly but standing guard. Daniel noticed the dog's collar tag, its metal glinting in the morning light. Sadie, service dog. A sudden wave of realization hit him. This was a trained companion, not just a pet. A service dog loyal beyond measure, one who knew exactly what to do in a moment of crisis. It was Sadie's quick thinking that had stopped Daniel's patrol car in its tracks and led him here. Carefully, Daniel climbed the steep embankment toward the Suit's driver window. He tried calling out softly to the woman. "Ma'am, can you hear me? Help is here." His voice was steady, but inside, adrenaline surged through his veins. She didn't respond. Gently, he reached to unlock the door, but it was jammed tight. From the impact, he turned to the dog, who looked at him with a steady gaze as if urging him to act fast. Daniel grabbed his radio, calling in a more urgent request for emergency medical services and backup officers. The minutes felt like hours as he searched for a way to reach the woman safely. Luckily, a nearby paramedic team arrived, just as Daniel was trying to pry open the door. Together, they worked swiftly, using specialized tools to break the window and unlock the door without causing further harm. The woman was carefully lifted out and placed on a stretcher, her fragile breathing the only sign she was still alive. As the paramedics worked, Daniel knelt beside Sadie. The dog's injured leg trembled slightly, but her eyes never left the woman. Daniel gently inspected the wound on Sadie's leg, cleaning the blood with a spare cloth from his kit. "You did good, girl," he whispered. "You saved her." Amid the controlled chaos, Daniel learned from the paramedics that the woman had likely suffered a medical emergency before the crash, most probably a seizure or sudden fainting spell while driving. Her seizure alert dog had stayed by her side, then bravely run out to find help when she couldn't. As the woman was loaded into the ambulance, Daniel took a moment to look around. The wreck was a silent testimony to the disaster that had nearly claimed a life. The dog's actions had shifted fate by mere moments. The sirens faded into the distance as the ambulance sped toward the hospital. Daniel felt the weight of responsibility settle on him again. He looked at Sadie, now resting on the soft grass, exhausted but alert. Her courage had changed everything. Back at the patrol car, Daniel checked in with dispatch to update them. He couldn't help but wonder about the story behind this dog and her owner. Who was this woman, and how had her faithful companion known exactly what to do? Daniel's mind buzzed with questions, even as relief washed over him. Paramedics and officers secured the crash site, taking photos and collecting evidence to piece together the accident's timeline. But to Daniel, the real story was written in the quiet loyalty of a German shepherd who had stopped a police car on a lonely road. He stayed by Sadie's side, petting her softly, promising that everything would be okay. Somewhere deep inside, Daniel felt a connection to this brave dog, a reminder of the profound bond between humans and animals. Today was more than a rescue. It was a testament to trust, instinct, and unwavering devotion. As the sun climbed higher, warming the shattered metal and cooling the damp earth, Daniel knew the journey wasn't over. This was only the beginning of a story that would touch hearts, change lives, and reveal the incredible power of one dog's determination to save the one she loved. As the ambulance roared away down the winding country road, Officer Daniel Cruz remained kneeling beside Sadie, the brave German shepherd who had led him to the crash. The dog's breathing was shallow but steady, her dark eyes alert despite the deep cut on her right leg. Daniel gently wiped the blood from her fur with his sleeve and gave her a reassuring scratch behind the ears. Paramedics had already called ahead, alerting the trauma center to expect a critically injured patient. Daniel knew every second counted. He glanced toward the wreckage one last time before turning his attention back to Sadie. She had done more than find him, she had saved a life. Moments later, backup officers arrived, securing the scene and setting up roadblocks to prevent any curious drivers from interfering. Daniel filled them in on the details. How the dog had stopped his cruiser, led him into the woods, and how he'd found the unconscious woman. The officers listened with growing respect, admiring the dog's courage. While waiting for animal control to tend to Sadie, Daniel decided to check the woman's belongings scattered near the crash. Amid torn clothing and broken glass, he found a medical alert card identifying the woman as Rachel Williams and listing epilepsy as her condition. The pieces fit together. Now Rachel's seizure likely caused the crash, and Sadie, trained to recognize warning signs, had run for help. Sadie whimpered softly, her body trembling from pain and exhaustion. Daniel wrapped his jacket gently around her to shield her from the chilly breeze. He knelt beside her, whispering words of comfort. "You're a hero, Sadie. You did exactly what you were supposed to." The dog's tail gave a weak wag as she rested her head against his knee. Then, a sudden noise caught Daniel's attention, a faint whimper from behind the trees. He turned quickly and saw Mike, the young boy from the clearing, hesitating near the edge of the woods. Daniel called out to him softly, "It's okay, Mike. Come here." The boy emerged slowly, eyes wide with worry. "Is my sister going to be okay?" he asked, voice trembling. Daniel crouched down, placing a reassuring hand on Mike's shoulder. "The paramedics are taking good care of her. She's in the best hands." Mike looked down, struggling to hold back tears. "Sadie saved her. She ran to get help when Mom couldn't." Daniel nodded solemnly. "That dog is very brave. She saved a life today." The bond between Mike and Sadie was clear. Despite her injuries, the dog remained fiercely protective, never letting go of the boy's side. Daniel's heart ached at the sight. This was more than just a dog. This was family. As the morning wore on, Daniel stayed at the scene, helping officers gather evidence and speaking with emergency responders. He couldn't shake the feeling that the story wasn't finished yet. There was more to uncover about Rachel, Sadie, and the incredible chain of events that had unfolded. Paramedics returned to check on Sadie, carefully bandaging her wounded leg. She endured the treatment with quiet dignity, as if understanding that every moment mattered. Daniel's respect for the dog deepened with each passing minute. News crews began arriving, alerted by the police scanner and local tips. Reporters wanted the story of the German Shepherd who stopped a police car and saved a life. Daniel gave a brief statement, praising Sadie's instinct and courage, while emphasizing the importance of service animals. Meanwhile, at the hospital, doctors worked tirelessly to stabilize Rachel. Her condition was critical, but improving. The medical team marveled at how quickly she had been found and brought in for treatment. Direct result of Sadie's brave actions. As the day faded into afternoon, Daniel allowed himself a moment to reflect. He thought about the trust between a dog and her owner, the silent communication that had saved Rachel's life. He thought about how sometimes, in the quietest moments, heroes appear in the most unexpected forms. And he thought about how one determined German Shepherd, injured but unyielding, had stopped a police car on a lonely road and changed the course of a family's future forever. Days passed since the crash, but Officer Daniel Cruz couldn't shake the image of the wrecked SUV and the brave German Shepherd named Sadie. After ensuring the crash site was cleared, Daniel visited the hospital where the woman, Rachel Williams, was recovering. He wanted to learn more about the woman and her remarkable dog who had saved her life. When Daniel entered the hospital room, he saw Rachel lying in bed, pale but awake. Beside her sat Sadie, resting on a blanket with a bandage wrapped around her injured leg. The moment Rachel's eyes met the dog's, a soft smile appeared on her face. "There's my girl," she whispered, reaching out a trembling hand to stroke Sadie's fur. Rachel turned her gaze to Daniel, her voice steady despite her ordeal. She explained how she had been driving home after camping with her son Mike when a sudden seizure struck. "I remember feeling dizzy and disoriented," she said. "Then everything went black. During the seizure, her car veered off the road and crashed. Sadie's been trained for this," Rachel continued. "She senses when a seizure is coming and stays close. But that day, when I lost control, she jumped out of the car to find help." Tears welled in her eyes. She ran for miles through the woods until she found Officer Cruz's car. She wouldn't stop barking until he followed her. Daniel listened, amazed by the depth of the bond between woman and dog. He asked Rachel about Sadie's training. She explained that Sadie was a certified seizure alert dog, specially trained to warn her when a seizure was near and to act decisively if she was in danger. "She's more than a pet," Rachel said softly. "She's my guardian angel." Over the next few hours, doctors updated Daniel on Rachel's condition. While the crash had caused injuries, the timely rescue meant she was expected to make a full recovery. The hospital staff praised Sadie for her intelligence and loyalty, marveling at the dog's role in saving Rachel's life. After his visit, Daniel returned to the police station, his mind racing with the story he had just heard. He knew this was more than a routine rescue. It was a tale of courage, instinct, and love that deserved to be shared. He began gathering information, contacting service dog trainers and medical experts to better understand how dogs like Sadie were trained, and the critical difference they made in their owners' lives. The more he learned, the deeper his respect grew for these animals and their handlers. Meanwhile, news of the heroic German Shepherd spread quickly through the community. Reporters interviewed Daniel, Rachel, and trainers who explained how service dogs operate in emergencies. Social media buzzed with stories and pictures of Sadie, the dog who stopped a police car to save her owner. As the story reached farther, it inspired many. People began donating to service dog programs and epilepsy research, eager to support those affected by similar challenges. Daniel stayed in contact with Rachel and Mike, visiting the family when he could. He watched as Rachel's health improved, and Mike's laughter returned. He saw how Sadie, despite her injury, remained a symbol of hope and strength. One afternoon, Daniel received a call from Rachel. She wanted to invite him to a special event, a community fundraiser for service dog training programs. Daniel agreed, honored to be part of a cause that had touched his life so deeply. At the event, surrounded by families, trainers, and dogs, Daniel spoke about that fateful morning. He shared how a determined German Shepherd had stopped a police car in the road, refusing to let the moment pass until help arrived. The crowd listened intently, some wiping tears as they heard about the unbreakable bond between Rachel and Sadie. The event raised thousands of dollars, promising hope for many who relied on service animals. Daniel knew that the story of Sadie and Rachel was far from over. It was a living testament to bravery, love, and the unexpected heroes who walk among us on four legs. As he left the event that evening, Daniel felt grateful, not just for the rescue, but for the reminder that sometimes the smallest voices make the loudest impact. News of Sadie's heroism spread like wildfire, turning the German Shepherd into a beloved figure across the small town and beyond. Local newspapers ran heartfelt stories with pictures of the brave dog, and soon television crews arrived to capture the inspiring tale of loyalty and courage that had touched so many hearts. The mayor himself invited Officer Daniel Cruz, Rachel, Mike, and Sadie to a special ceremony held at City Hall. The auditorium was packed with families, neighbors, and officials, all eager to honor the dog who had saved a life and brought hope to the community. Banners with Sadie's picture hung proudly, and the room buzzed with excitement and gratitude. Daniel watched as Rachel cradled Sadie in her arms, tears shining in her eyes. Mike stood beside them, his small hand resting on the dog's head, a look of pride on his young face. The mayor stepped to the podium, his voice warm and steady as he addressed the crowd. Today we recognize not only the bravery of a German Shepherd named Sadie, but also the incredible bond between a service dog and her owner, he said. Sadie's quick actions and unwavering loyalty remind us all of the extraordinary role animals play in our lives, especially those trained to protect and assist. As the applause swelled, Daniel felt a swell of pride. He remembered the morning he first saw Sadie standing in the road, stopping his car as if to say, "Follow me." The memory of how she had led him through the woods and to the crash site still filled him with awe. During the ceremony, a local trainer spoke about the rigorous training service dogs undergo and the profound impact they have on people's independence and safety. She shared stories of dogs detecting seizures, alerting to medical emergencies, and providing comfort in times of fear and uncertainty. Rachel spoke next, her voice steady but emotional. Sadie is more than a dog to me. She's my guardian, my friend, and my lifeline. Without her, I don't know where I would be today. She paused, looking down at Sadie curled comfortably at her feet. This dog saved my life, and for that, I will be forever grateful. Mike, shy but proud, stepped forward to present Sadie with a special collar engraved with a medal honoring her courage. The crowd erupted into cheers as the dog's tail wagged happily, sensing the love and admiration around her. After the ceremony, Daniel stayed to meet with community members inspired by the story. Many asked questions about service dogs, epilepsy awareness, and how they could support similar causes. Local businesses pledged donations to help fund training programs, and a charity run was organized to raise awareness. Daniel also reconnected with Mike, who showed him drawings he'd made of Sadie as a superhero dog. The boy's wide smile and sparkling eyes were a testament to hope and healing. Daniel promised to visit often and help in any way he could. That evening, as the town settled under a sky painted with stars, Daniel reflected on the events that had unfolded. A simple morning patrol had turned into an unforgettable rescue that united a community. Sadie's story was more than a headline. It was a reminder that courage comes in many forms. And sometimes, the smallest heroes make the biggest difference. In the days that followed, more families began considering service dogs for loved ones with medical conditions. Local trainers reported increased interest, and Daniel found himself invited to speak at schools and community centers about the importance of recognizing and supporting service animals. The bond between humans and dogs had always been special, but now it was celebrated openly, with gratitude and respect. Through Sadie's actions, the town learned to see the extraordinary in the ordinary, and to appreciate the quiet heroes who watch over them every day. For Officer Daniel Cruz, Sadie's story was a powerful lesson in trust and instinct, a story he would carry with him for years to come. And for Rachel and Mike, it was the beginning of a new chapter filled with hope, love, and the unwavering presence of their guardian angel on 4 legs. After weeks in the hospital, Rachel Williams finally opened her eyes to a soft, familiar presence beside her bed. Sadie, the loyal German shepherd, lay curled up on a blanket, her tired eyes watching every movement. The moment Rachel saw her dog, a wave of relief and emotion swept over her. "Sadie," she whispered, reaching out a trembling hand. The dog responded instantly, nuzzling Rachel's fingers and wagging her tail weakly. Tears welled up in Rachel's eyes as she realized just how much she had missed her faithful companion. Doctors explained to Rachel that her injuries were healing well, though she faced weeks of physical therapy and rest. They praised the quick rescue efforts, crediting Sadie's determination with saving her life. Rachel listened, feeling a deep gratitude toward the dog who had refused to leave her side. Even when the world seemed to fall apart. Mike, her young son, visited daily. His bright smile and laughter brought warmth to the hospital room. He and Sadie shared an unbreakable bond, often sitting side by side during Rachel's therapy sessions. The little boy would tell stories about their camping trip before the accident, his eyes shining with hope for the future. Officer Daniel Cruz stopped by regularly, checking on both Rachel and Sadie. He brought treats for the dog and shared encouraging words with the family. Over time, a friendship blossomed between them, rooted in the extraordinary experience they had shared. As Rachel regained strength, she began attending epilepsy support groups, sharing her story to raise awareness about the condition and the vital role of service dogs. She spoke passionately about Sadie's training and instincts, inspiring others to consider service animals as lifelines in times of crisis. Sadie's injury healed more slowly, but her spirit never wavered. Despite occasional limping, she remained vigilant and protective, sensing her owner's moods and offering comfort during difficult moments. Rachel knew that Sadie's presence was a source of strength, not just physically, but emotionally. One afternoon, Rachel and Mike took their first cautious walk outside since the accident. Sadie trotted beside them, tail wagging, eyes alert. A neighborhood greeted them with smiles and waves, many stopping to ask about the brave dog who had made headlines. The community's support filled Rachel's heart with hope. Daniel watched from a distance, proud of how far the family had come. He thought back to that quiet morning when Sadie had stopped his police cruiser on the road, leading him through the woods to a crash that could have ended in tragedy. Now, that moment was a turning point, a story of survival and resilience. As months passed, Rachel continued her recovery, adapting to new routines with Sadie's help. The bond between them grew even stronger, a testament to loyalty and love. Forged in the most challenging of circumstances. The town embraced their story as a beacon of hope. Fundraisers for service dog training and epilepsy research flourished, and more families sought support and guidance. Sadie became a symbol, not just of bravery, but of the quiet, unspoken connections that save lives every day. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Rachel sat on the porch with Sadie resting at her feet. Mike played nearby, his laughter carrying on the breeze. Rachel looked down at her dog and smiled. "You're my hero, Sadie," she whispered. The dog lifted her head, eyes shining with trust and devotion. In that moment, words were unnecessary there. Bond said everything. Through reunion and healing, Rachel, Mike, Daniel, and Sadie had found something precious. A second chance, wrapped in love and courage. Ready to face whatever came next. Months had passed since the dramatic rescue on that quiet country road. But the impact of Sadie's actions continued to ripple through the lives of those involved and the entire community. Rachel Williams, now fully recovered, had embraced a new mission, raising awareness about epilepsy and the vital role of service dogs in helping those affected. She began volunteering at a local training center dedicated to preparing service dogs for medical alert and assistance roles. Surrounded by trainers and volunteers, Rachel shared her story openly, emphasizing how Sadie's bravery had saved her life and inspired countless others. Her passion sparked hope in the hearts of many who faced similar challenges. Officer Daniel Cruz remained close to the family, often visiting the center to offer support and learn more about the dogs that had become heroes in his own experience. Inspired by Sadie, Daniel decided to adopt a retired police dog, giving the animal a loving home and a second chance. Their bond was different, but no less powerful, a testament to the connection between humans and dogs who serve. The town rallied behind the cause. Fundraisers and charity events filled calendars, supporting service dog training programs and epilepsy research. Schools invited Rachel and Daniel to speak, teaching children about the importance of compassion, courage, and the unique bond shared with service animals. Sadie, despite her past injuries, thrived in her role not only as Rachel's loyal companion, but as a symbol of hope and resilience. The dog's gentle presence brought comfort to families visiting the training center, many inspired by her story to consider service dogs for their loved ones. Local news outlets featured updates on the family's journey, highlighting the powerful message behind their experience. The story of the German Shepherd who had stopped a police car and led an officer to a crash site became a beloved legend, a reminder that sometimes the smallest actions can change everything. Rachel, Mike, Daniel, and Sadie formed a close-knit circle, united by an extraordinary event that had forever altered their lives. Together, they celebrated milestones, from Mike's school achievements to Rachel's growing advocacy work and Daniel's commitment to community service. One sunny afternoon, the town held a special dedication ceremony, unveiling a statue of a German Shepherd in the park, near the road where the rescue had occurred. The plaque read, "In honor of Sadie, a dog whose courage saved a life and whose loyalty inspires us all." Families gathered, many with their own service dogs, to pay tribute. As Daniel stood beside Rachel and Mike, he felt a profound sense of gratitude. What began as a routine patrol had turned into a story of heroism and hope. He thought of Sadie's determined eyes and unwavering spirit, and how one dog's courage had saved a life and touched an entire community. Rachel knelt to stroke the bronze statue, whispering a heartfelt thank you. Mike hugged Sadie tightly, their bond stronger than ever. The crowd applauded, moved by a story that had shown the power of love, trust, and the unbreakable connection between humans and their animals. In the years to come, the tale of Sadie's bravery continued to inspire new generations. Children learned about service dogs, families advocated for epilepsy awareness, and officers like Daniel carried the lesson that sometimes the smallest heroes come on four legs, with hearts as big as the world. And through it all, Sadie remained a shining example of courage, loyalty, and hope, a legacy that would live on far beyond the quiet road where her incredible journey began.